What do you do as a citizen when Congress refuses to follow the law, the very laws that they've set? Well, if you're a Brunson brother, you sue them in the Supreme Court.
LOY Brunson's strategy works this way. After the 2020 election, hundreds of citizens and elected lawmakers stepped forward with evidence of misconduct and malfeasance and criminal behavior during that election. Well, Brunson's argument is that Congress was constitutionally required to investigate this evidence due to their oaths of office, in which every member swears to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I recently had a chance to talk to LOY Brunson about this case, and here's what he had to say.
I'm raising public awareness about my Supreme Court case. It's a federal case that was actually filed in the federal court, and the federal court actually ordered the U.S. Marshal Service to start serving my summons and complaint, basically my lawsuit. And according to the docket, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, and 81 others were served March 31st, 2021. The next day, the court unfiled my case, called back the service, and so my brothers and I, we took them to court. And we battled there and got them to reverse their decision. And that's the case that is at the Supreme Court right now. It is a Rule 11 petition for writ of certiorari, which means that the Supreme Court of the United States allowed this to be filed without the mandatory 10th Circuit Court decision, which means they had to conclude, someone in the court clerk in the office there had to conclude that it was of, quote, imperative public importance in order for them to file it. And that is alive. It's been denied a hearing one time. We filed a petition for rehearing. They filed it. We submitted and they filed it. And so we should get another conference date probably in October because they've taken a break for the summer. And so we had one more shot at this with this petition, this case that would literally give the Supreme Court the power to cancel the credentials of President Biden, Kamala Harris, and 381 others.
Even LOY knows that for this case to be successful, it's going to take a lot of hope and a lot of prayer.
Well, I believe in miracles, and it's really up to God, and we see miracles every day in front of us constantly, right? And I've talked to some people about this, and they think, oh, there's no chance. And I go, well, do you believe in miracles? They go, yes, but not this big a one. It's like, it's a little tough to believe in big miracles. But it's been miracle after miracle to get to this point, to have two cases at the Supreme Court. The U.S. attorneys are reading the brief. It's a real simple case. It's about the oath of office. Article 6 of the Constitution demands that the oath be binding with the words, they shall be bound by oath to this Constitution. And they've hidden behind immunity and claimed that they have absolute immunity in protecting themselves. And so people are writing letters. They go to LOYBRUNSON.com and they write letters supporting this petition, and it gives them information about what this case is all about. And so what I think the chances are, anything could happen. I think it's possible because of the public support we're getting. 80,000 people apparently have written letters to the Supreme Court, and so it only takes 4 justices to decide for a date for a hearing, and I'm hoping for a hearing, and I think it's very possible.
In a previous podcast, I'd heard LOY Brunson talk about this case, and he made a statement that really stuck with me. He says, we know what foreign enemies look like, but what would domestic enemies look like? You know, the ones that our founding fathers warned us about.
Exactly, and I think that's what this case is all about. 145 members of Congress demonstrated a domestic enemy because they had infiltrated our election system by so many fraudulent votes, and they had a pile of evidence. They had a tremendous amount of evidence. When you go to a police department, if 2 of you go to a police department, you say there's a crime been committed, they'd better investigate that crime. Or what happens? They become criminally liable. Well, when you have 145 credible members of Congress saying with evidence that there's been crimes committed against attacking our election system, which is attacking the Constitution, and you don't investigate, you become a part of the crime. And so that was so important that they pause and investigate. And that's a perfect example of a domestic enemy that they refused. They even said, well, it was not enough to change the election. Can you imagine a policeman saying, well, he didn't kill the person, he wounded the person, but so we're not going to investigate because it wasn't a serious enough crime? You better investigate before it gets too serious, right? That's the purpose for defending the Constitution, is find out if it's going to be a serious situation or if it is a serious situation. So, and that's what the case is all about. They didn't investigate. They didn't pause and investigate, and it would have been so simple for them to do that. They neglected their duty. They violated their oath, and according to the Constitution, they gave comfort and aid to enemies of the Constitution, known or unknown, and the penalty for that is the penalty for treason is low, and Congress has determined the penalties for treason. Low treason is a $10,000 fine, being barred from holding public office the rest of your life. High treason includes the death penalty. So the Supreme Court has a tremendous amount of power right now with either remanding it back to federal court or adjudicating the full complaint, which they have the power under their Rule 11 to do.
So you're probably asking, what can I do to be a part of this case? Loy explains.
It would be go to LOYBRUNSON.com, watch that 5-minute video. It explains how the oath has got to be binding, and that's the Achilles heel, America. We haven't been able to hold our representatives accountable because we haven't known that there's a clause in the Constitution that states they shall be bound by oath to this Constitution, and that they've taken an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And when the 2020 electoral certification rolled around, and 140 members of Congress that were witnesses with a pile of evidence that we had been attacked by enemies, either foreign or domestic, and 380 so members of Congress refused a simple investigation, that's what I want America to wake up to. And I believe that's the Achilles heel. So if they go and they see an opportunity at LOYBRUNSON.com, watch the video, take 2 minutes, they can do a digital letter that turns into a physical letter that's actually printed and folded and put in an envelope with postage. Their letter goes to the Supreme Court, and it's their vote for the Constitution and a binding oath. And I think that's the message I want to get across. And if enough Americans wake up, the Supreme Court will have no choice but to do the will of the people and to obey the oath that they've taken to defend the Constitution with a good outcome. And I think it's very possible that they could decide in a hearing that they are going to overturn the motion to dismiss, remand it back to the federal court, and let the court process happen with investigation, with depositions, with discovery is what they call it, where it would expose why many of them were so strong about opposing a simple 10-day investigation.